Are you still concerned about the game development of Beyond Good and Evil 2? Welcome back to the channel and stick around so you can become more familiar with some key developers at Ubisoft responsible for creating Beyond Good and Evil 2. Once you know more of the history behind the development team, you might be more confident in the game they're currently making. But whatever your feelings are, this history will certainly provide for some thoughtful discussion. So let's take another developer deep dive. Hello, fellow space monkeys. This is the mildly morose man, otherwise known as Dan or Dan the Man, whichever you fancy. I am here to bring you another thought-provoking video on the developers of Beyond Good and Evil 2. Be sure to subscribe if you want to stay up to date on all things Beyond Good and Evil 2. Previously, we focused our attention on Gabrielle Schrager. Being the narrative director for Beyond Good and Evil 2, her work is super important to the quality of the upcoming prequel. But leadership, business, and management all produce a significant impact on the development team. That is why we will now turn our attention to Guillaume Brunier, the senior producer for Beyond Good and Evil 2. We will start with his work on the title Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon back in 2001 until we make it to 2015 when we assume he started working with the team on Beyond Good and Evil 2. Stick around until the end. You might be surprised by what Guillaume was working on just before development really kicked in on BGE2. Back in 2001, Guillaume Brunier worked on the marketing and was involved in the PR for the game Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, released on Xbox, PS2, and PC. This game received a good score on Metacritic, and I think it's considered by many as a classic first-person shooter that still holds up pretty good even today. Again, Guillaume was really much more involved on the publishing side of things than the development side of things. But in 2006, we saw the release of Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Double Agent on the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. Guillaume worked as the communications and associate producer on this title. This game also got good reviews on Metacritic, at least by the press. It seems like gamers didn't really enjoy the game as much. Splinter Cell is a totally different type of game than Ghost Recon back in 2001. Splinter Cell Double Agent was a stealth game that also provided a narrative that required player choice. You might know that this game also incorporated online multiplayer alongside the single-player storyline. Ubisoft would continue to develop games with an emphasis on online multiplayer. In fact, in this next title, players argued that online was the best way to play. Guillaume continued to work on Tom Clancy titles, but Tom Clancy's End War, released in 2008 on PS3, was unique from both of the previous titles. End War was an RTS game, like Age of Empires or Command & Conquer. But End War was made from the ground up as a home console experience. It was pretty well received. It stands out for incorporating a voice recognition system. A controller on a console was much more limiting than a mouse and keyboard on a computer, which is usually the way these RTS games were played. So this voice command system was put in place so that the gameplay would achieve a faster pace and more responsive feel than two analog sticks could ever give players. This game also incorporated online multiplayer in the form of a persistent world map. This map was updated daily based on the wins and losses of players assigned to 3 different factions. I forgot to mention that he worked on another title in 2007 that released on Xbox 360, PS3, PSP, Wii, and PC. Yeah, we don't usually see these types of games as much anymore, and it's for good reason. Anyway, Guillaume was the associate producer on the licensed game Beowulf, based on the movie that came out in the same year. I haven't personally played this game, but let me know if you've played the game down in the comments below. And yeah, this game doesn't really stand out as a high point on this list. But the next game is one of the most unique on this list. Guillaume was a producer on the video game From Dust, which released as a downloadable game on multiple platforms in 2011. From Dust is a god game in which the player controls the elements like water, earth, and even magma for the purpose of defending his or her worshippers from total destruction. This game was known for its unique gameplay and for the fact that it got really tough as the game progressed. In 2012, the same theme of toughness continues as Guillaume was a producer on Zombie U. Gab Schrager also worked on this game, but this Nintendo exclusive at the time used a permadeath mechanic that was consistent with its storyline. If you died in this game, your character turned into a zombie. If you wanted your stuff back, you had to go take it off of your dead but reanimated body. For the first time, Mr. Brunier took a step up the ladder and became the senior producer for the Dead Kings DLC for Assassin's Creed Unity that was released in 2015. This was a free DLC released for a game that suffered from a lot of technical issues. This content didn't actually fix some of the bugs present in the initial launch, but by this time a weird mechanic that required the use of a smartphone app in order to unlock certain treasure chests was patched out of the game. Later that same year, 2015, Assassin's Creed Syndicate was released. Guillaume kept his title of senior producer on this game as well. Many people agree that this game improved in almost every way from its predecessor, Assassin's Creed Unity. It was a much more stable game at launch. It had a compelling narrative that was connected to its side quest, and the brother-sister focused pair as a main set of characters was a nice change of pace for both the story and the gameplay. But you might not realize that Guillaume Brunier worked on one more game before he started working on Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Trop de travail, trop de stress, c'est le burn-out. Vous vous réveillez dans une pièce capitonnée. Vous êtes dans une clinique, mais pas n'importe laquelle. La clinique du docteur Pilule. Soyez tranquille, mon traitement révolutionnaire est très efficace, c'est juste l'affaire de 10 ou 15 ans, vous dit-il. À ces mots.
That's right. He was the co-creator of a board game which Google tells me is Pill Doctor, my anti-burnout game. The premise of this game is that you have overworked yourself into insanity. You passed out somehow and find yourself held in this doctor's facility. You have to prove your sanity in order to escape by guessing the right words that your partner is trying to communicate in a charades-like manner. Sadly, the game seems to have only been printed in French. But would you try this game out if it was in English? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, we know that Guillaume Brunier is the senior producer on Beyond Good and Evil 2, and he has quite the history in the games industry. Were you surprised to see he worked on any of these games? I know there has been some harsh critiques of the Assassin's Creed games, but Syndicate certainly turned out better than Unity. And it's cool to see all the work he's done within the Tom Clancy IP. And each one of those games were so different. And I love seeing stuff like From Dust in a developer's portfolio because it is so unique and creative. And I'm a fan of board games, so it's so cool to see that he worked on something like that Pill Doctor board game that he published back in 2015. But please share your thoughts in the comments down below, and we will continue to look back on the history of these developers at Ubisoft. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video at all, and a dislike if you didn't. Thanks for watching, and be back for the next one if you want to stay up to date on all things Beyond Good and Evil 2.